Okay, so this is where it started, guys. So if you haven't seen part 1, I would advise you to go and watch it. Not really going to do much talking in this video because it's pretty self-evident in what I'm doing. If anything looks a bit strange, I'll jump in and see if I can explain it. Just trying to make sure the runners are running straight and parallel. That's why I'm using the corner clamps just to level it up at the edge of the drawer. Just putting this line through here, guys, because it's not going to be running on the edge like the one on the left is. It's going to be running a little bit more in, so what I'm doing is I'm putting the line down there. I've measured it. The runners are measured so that they line up with the wooden slats that we put in before, and the line is just so that runs down the centre of the runner and we can screw to that. Now I must be honest, if I was doing this over again I wouldn't make these drawers as tall or as big as they are now, because these runners are probably just about handling on the weight of them, and I don't think I'd be able to put a lot of stuff inside these drawers. As I say, this was just an experiment. I think if I was doing it over again, whether or not I would do this again, I don't know. See what you think at the end. That little piece of wood we just trimmed off on the table saw, it's basically just to bring this piece of wood up to the height that we want it at, because we're going to put a shelf in here as well. So that's all that little piece of wood was, just to bring this piece up to the height we want the shelf. Again, we're doing the same thing here, guys. We're just marking up this piece of scrap wood, cut a piece off and glue it on just to bring it up to a certain height. Now you'll get a better view of this piece in a minute when the camera angle adjusts. This is just a piece that's going across the back. Again, it's a piece of the old wood that we took off the front. So we're trying to use all the original wood as possible, so that it doesn't cost as much to build this, if anything. But I did have to buy a sheet of plywood, but I bought the cheapest possible sheet, which was an 8x4, and it was $38. And what that's for is we'll use that for the shelf, the front of the drawers, and also the side of the cupboard, which you'll see a bit later on. Now the unit's actually lying down on its side at the moment, so this cross piece that we're putting on right now, this is going to be the side, and that's going to be a piece where we're going to glue the side piece on with a piece of plywood that we bought. Okay, it's now standing upright, and you can see the piece that we just glued on at the back there. Now while the camera was off, guys, I did glue a little piece of wood in there for the shelves to sit on. Now I'm putting these little guide runners on to run across the top of the wood there that you can see at the top, and these are just to keep the shelves kind of steady, and also to stop them coming all the way out. When they slide to the front, they'll stop the shelf coming out on the front bar. Just gluing it, sorry, we're just cutting a couple of the sides for the shelves to sit on. We'll screw them onto the sides and the shelves can sit on top of them. And I'm just marking up the two corners there so that I can cut them out so that the shelf can sit in. But what I did end up doing eventually is just cutting the whole front of that bit off. So I didn't really need to do this, but you know, plans change as you're going along. I did measure the width of the drawers, and I'm just cutting the new shelves down to the width so that they fit in. Sorry for the camera work here guys, but all I'm doing is I'm just measuring the height I'm going to put the next shelf on. Just measure the height, mark it off, and then we'll run a frame round there so the shelf can sit on it. Now the clamps wouldn't clamp up properly, so I'm just using 2 scraps of wood to be able to fill the gap and put a bit of pressure on the glued wood. So that's all these are. Now I am actually putting screws in here as well as brad nails and gluing it, because it's going to be a shelf. I don't really know what kind of weight I'm putting on it just yet. Now this is the back that we took off earlier, so it is the old backing from when we first started. So it's more or less just the right width. Here we're just rounding off the front edge, that's all. Now the reason I haven't put the side on at the moment is it's so much easier to work without it, putting the shelves in and
Okay, I couldn't get any of that half rounded stuff at the Home Depot, so what I've done instead is I've bought that, which is the same width, 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to have to kind of mould it or sand it all the way down and try and get it into some sort of shape that's similar, hopefully, for there.
now the way I work this to get it into shape is I drew a line right down the middle. So I found the middle of the boat, drew a line right down the middle, and I'm kind of rounding off from the middle to the edges. But I also measured on the other one how thick the edge was, so that it didn't go too thin on them, if you understand what I mean. Now when I measured the edge of the other rounded piece, I took the measurements and I run it down the side of this board here so that I can sand up to that line, and it should give me a bit of a round over on each side. This is what you have to do when you get cheap crap wood from Home Depot. This, believe it or not, this is one of the best pieces I could find on the pile. Now here I'm starting to measure up the front of the drawers and cutting the fronts that I'm going to be using on them to size. Now if you notice as I'm cutting here, most of my stuff is black. Around the garage is painted black with wooden bases on them, and that's exactly the style I'm going to use on this. There's a few indentations in here, but because it's getting painted black it doesn't make no difference, so I'm just going to fill them. Just get it into the parts where you can't reach with the spray gun, or the spray gun doesn't cover it properly, so just getting into them corners. This is what you have to do when you can't afford the birch, is it what's it called, the birch ply or something like that, you know the good stuff that all the YouTubers use. Unfortunately I can't afford it, so I get the cheapest crap I can buy and then start working with it. Now as you see here, I didn't do too bad a job at doing the half round thing, and it doesn't look too bad at all when I actually cut it to size and put it on the unit itself. You'll see that shortly. This is just clear polyurethane, oil based I think it is, yeah. Just to give a bit of colour and a bit of protection. Just a quick temporary clamp up while I measure where the 2-inch round over bit's going. I want to make sure I put it in the right place. Now on the side with the original piece on, it's actually got a mitre, so I'm going to try and match up on this side. You'll see how I go about it now, and I'll explain it as we go along. This is a little cardboard mould I'm making that's cut to a 45, and I'm sticking it on this piece here because I want to trim that down to match up at 45 on the new piece. Now you'll notice here when I cut it, it actually leaves a bit square, and that's because there'll be a gap between the two 45s, which I'll fill with a bit of wood and a bit of filler, and you'll see me doing that as we're going along, so you'll understand what I'm on about. Now I have to apologise here, I should have got a better camera shot, but I wasn't thinking at the time. Now when I put this on like that, there's actually a little gap which I filled with a bit of wood and then filled with filler, and now I'm sanding it all into shape so that the corner meets and it's nice and flush with each other, but it's easy enough to do. These are the drawer covers. We're just rounding off all the edges so that we don't get any sharp edges on them. Following through with the wooden push stick so that we don't get any chip out. So we just push it through like that, like I just did then. Sometimes you get chip out. So you're better off using a wood, an old bit of scrap wood to push it through with. And once again, no birch ply, just a bit of elbow grease. Now here's a little tip if you want to do some varnishing or painting. These are just a couple of scraps of wood that I've got, and they create a little spike at the top so that the door can sit, sorry, the drawer front can sit on. You did see me varnishing the shelves on them earlier on.
Okay, so the wife decided she liked the black in that colour rather than plain black. So that's what we've decided to do. Now if you remember, these were the bases in the drawers that we had. So as well as taking all the drawers apart and using the wood elsewhere, we're going to use the bottoms as the drawers as well and use them as the backing. And I've already measured the height, so we'll cut to that, but I need to measure the width now. Okay, so we're going to do that. What I've done here is I've measured this side to one of the studs that's going down at the back so that we can brad nail it in. I'm going to do the same with this piece here.
Now this is just draft excluded this, so I generally have a reel of it in the shop, and sometimes I just use it to cover little gaps like this at the bottom, and it kind of gives it a nice finishing touch.
Okay, what we've done here, put cardboard spacers in there, cardboard spacers in the bottom, and it's on cardboard spacers right at the very bottom there. We've also measured down, we've measured to the middle of the board, which is there, using that on both sides to get it, and we've also measured down there to the height there, so that the level on both sides when we do them. Now what we'll do the hole here.
Now to get the position of this hole, what we actually did is we measured the handle that we're putting on here. We measured from the centre of the handle to the screw hole, and it was about 1.5 inches away from the middle. So that's how we've got the position of that screw hole. And we're going to do the same thing with the other screw hole on the other side. Okay, here we're just putting a few more screws in from the back to hold the front of the drawer fascia on.
Okay, get the general concept, guys. There's the drawers, shelves. There's the pull-out drawers, which we haven't finished yet. Let me just get this off here. Now, if you look, that's going to be the drawers there. That's the way they pull out. It's not soft closing, it's just closing. That one is not too bad. This one, I've only got one handle at the moment, so I've got to get the other handle. But this one, I seem to be having a few problems with this one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one back apart and to see why that gap's there like that, and try and fix that so that they run a little bit smoother. But it's not too bad, that one. There's the shelving on both sides, different ones. Shelving there, 3 of them. 3 of them. So once I've fixed that one there, then we're going to put it over there. And if you notice the way the black handle is, as I say, I've only got the one spare at the moment. The reason I'm doing it like that is because it blends in with the rest of the workshop, as you can see here. It's in a bit of a state at the moment, but like, we're getting there. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. As I say, it's not quite finished yet, but I need to get this video out, so I've given you the rough idea, and the only thing wrong with it now is this side thing. I've just got to get this a little bit running a little bit better and close that gap. So I'm going to do that by taking the drawer out completely and working on the gear. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Any comments, leave them below.
And I will leave a link to some free plans, not to this project but to other projects, in the description below, and also a link to some Amazon tools if you're interested.